Good day and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is David Egop. You can call me Drones if you call me Drones. And basically, I help I teach Figma components and I track myself from my learning progress of this channel. So in today's video, I'm going to be talking about how you can make no rush, David. How you can make kind of reactive components or responsive components in Figma, where everything is going to be going down automatically by itself and fill up all the spaces possible. Sometimes we may need this, like this is a very good use case of this kind of forms, and we may need it to expand based on the width, and trying to create it specifically for that will be a problem. So let's get right into it. Yeah, this is first of all, the first thing you do is you create a frame, any random frame and any shape. Yeah, well, it should be a rectangle. Yeah, and then you would, from the rectangle, let's name the rectangle f1. Now, good. F1 means frame 1. I'm going to add a text in F1, and that text is going to be name. And then I'm going to centralize it inside F1 by holding Alt and hitting V and H on my keyboard, and then everything is going to be centralized inside F1. Moving forward, I'm going to make name itself a component. That's an auto layout component. If you want to understand what an auto layout component is, there's a link to a description below where a friend of mine explained this really well and you can learn from it. So Shift A is going to make this a auto layout. Now, this being an auto layout, I have to centralize it now before it's too late. So, and automatically when you add an auto layout, you have your nudge amount. Automatically, Figma gives your nudge amount to every component. When you don't have a specific, like this kind of situation, it just gives it a nudge amount. And your nudge amount itself, a video that's going to be explaining what nudge amount itself in relation to grid and all of that was done and last week, and the link is going to be in the description below. Moving forward, I'm going to make the padding that has been automatically given to this name element 0. I click enter, so there's no padding, and then from this side where my mouse is here, I'm going to put it in the middle. Now centralizing that component in the auto layout that I've created, the auto layout frame I just created. Now the distance here is important, but right now we can skip this. The space between items is important. We can skip this because it's only one item. You can make this 0, it doesn't matter. Now this has moved up here. Normally you go up here to centralize this and put this in the middle, but for faster rate of doing work, I will hit Alt V and Alt H on my keyboard. It's going to automatically centralize it. Moving forward, we have F1 with a name inside, exactly where we want it to be. I'm going to duplicate F1. Now we have 2 F1. I'm going to bring 1 down. Now I'm going to call this drones 1. I'm going to call this drones 1. Why I'm calling this drones 1 is because we're going to have more than one component, because all of this here are extensions or duplicates of one particular master element here, or one master component here. That's how you work to make everything easier. Now while moving forward, there's a video where I explain variants and I used components and how to create components in variants. The link is below in the description. Now I have name here and I have to change this frame to F2. Now we have F2. F1 and F2, they are all like different sides of one coin. I'm going to put a line here in between them, and look at where I'm going to, please. To the right hand corner of just follow my mouse. To the right hand corner of the screen, there is this angle. Once you select the elements, yeah, there is this thing that just comes up. It's like you're setting an angle for it. No, I don't make a mistake here. Like you're setting an angle, this angle sign here. I'm going to make this 0. Now it's going to automatically straighten the line instead of me stressing to see how I can make the line straight. And I'm going to move the line in between the 2 elements, F1 and F2. I will highlight both of them and hit Shift A on my keyboard to make it an auto layout. Moving forward, that auto layout now, you see that it's as pretty an auto layout, but this is longer than the line itself, or the line is shorter than the frame here, and also the same thing here. To solve that problem, I'm going to make the line a fill container. Now what this does is that as the line is a fill container, it's going to fill the certain container that is there. Since this is a width, is a fixed length or a fixed width, it's going to remain what it is, and it's going to make the shape of the container. Fill container basically just I'm using water to describe it. Water now is called, can take the form of a field container functionality. If you pour water inside a cup, it becomes a cup, and any other thing. Yeah. So that's exactly what field container is. You are basically turning that element into water by width or by height. When you use field container, you are basically saying become water by width. Fill whatever container that you are inside. Now, for this name, that's F1, which is not a field container, yet is a fixed width. If you look for the right hand side, you can see it's a fixed width. That means it's stable, it's not moving, it's the same way. While for drones also is a fixed width, and that makes up the container itself. Moving forward, I would, since they are all in a frame, I'll call it F3. And now F3 is holding F1 and F2 together with our liquid line, just field container line. Yeah. And then the spacing in between these two components right now is 6. If you look towards the right hand side of the screen, is 6, the space between items. And I'm going to change that from 6 and I'm going to make it 0 because we want them to be close to each other. I'm going to give our line here let me give it a random color. Let's say I give it, I like the shade. All of them are now having this. And I'm going to give this a color so we can easily identify where we are. Yeah. So I want all of them to be the same hue. So I'm just going to, they can't all be the same hue, but so I'll just give this way, and then what I'm doing is basic color change. Awesome, this is nice. And then leave this as drones 1. Moving forward, now we can't find this line and we need that line. So I'm going to, let's select the color from here. No, we can't select the color from here. We need that line, and it cannot be white or black. It could be gray. It can be black. Maybe a faint black like this will work. Interesting. Now we can add more. We can add. This one is hard. We can add more space into it like this. That makes more sense. Now we're going to make this a component, but not just yet. We have F1, F2, and F3. You see this line here that is demarcating it like this is also part of the component. Now we're going to create that line next. I'm going to put it like this horizontal line. Is it horizontal? Yeah. And what we're going to do with this line, let me check something. Yeah. It's not showing yet though. I will confirm. But this straight line, to make this line straight, just like we made the other one slanting flat, we're going to make it straight line. We are going to make 90 degree from the angle side of things. Now we're going to select F3 together with our line, and we're going to make the line shift A. And note, before I make it shift A, you can see that this line basically has no features. It's not a field container, it's not a fixed width, it's just nothing. Figma doesn't give you any properties to give it to it. But observe what happens when it becomes an auto layout. Shift A. Now it's a component, it's an element inside this container itself. It now has the ability to hold responsibilities. If it wants to be a water, or it wants to be like water and hold the space, or it wants to be fixed by itself. And we're going to give it field container, therefore making it occupy the space of this container itself, which is now going to be called F4, because we have F3, F2, F1. It's now going to be called F4. Now after making this, we want, just like we did here, where this line, the first line we had was, there was space in between, and we just remove the whole space. We're going to do that for F4, and we're going to remove the 16 pixel space here to 0. This is what we have here for this space. Moving forward, is we have all of this covered. We have F1, F2, all of them inside this space. We have this covered, and this is basically what we are building. This is exactly what we are looking for. But right now we want it to stretch this way, and only this element cannot do that. We need to duplicate the element. But before we do that, I'm going to make this a component by hitting Ctrl Alt K on my keyboard to make it a component. A video about explaining what components, and I talked about components in a video when I was talking about variants and how to create variants. So you should go to the description below and then watch that video after this one to understand components and variants. Moving forward, since this is a component already, I'll hit Ctrl D on my keyboard to duplicate this component, or I'll hold the components, hold Alt on my keyboard, then let's click and drag, and then leave the mouse first before you leave your keyboard. That way you have your components automatically duplicated. So I'll just use this, the same thing. Now we have two of these components. This is where we want to be. We are already on the right track. As we have two of these components, I'm going to make both of them inside an auto layout now. That is Shift A. We are all using auto layout and auto layout and auto layout here because it's important to use auto layout. If not, it won't work. Now we have this and we have space in the middle. Just like what we have here, there's no space in the middle. With the line is the space in the middle. Yeah. So that is what we want. That is where we want to be, and that's what we want. So we are going to make this two of them and then remove the space between elements, making it 0 once again. Now, as we have them at 0, it's now looking more like this. We are getting the shape here. This is a component, remember. I'm going to click on F1. F1 was a frame, not an auto layout. So now I'm going to make F1 an auto layout. I'm going to click auto layout from here or Shift A on my keyboard. F1 is now an auto layout with all content. F2 on the other hand, where drones 1 is not even an auto layout, and I'm going to make it an auto layout also by shifting A on my keyboard, and it's now an auto layout. Now the beauty about it is that now there's an auto layout, it's now taking the shape, it's now having the ability to fill container and then take the shape of the container that is inside. So I'm going to make F2 a fill container because we want F2 to fill container. That's where we want it to be. Now, as F2 is a fill container, I'm going to come right into this space here, and we want F2 to be left aligned because it's going to occupy a lot of text now. So I'm going to make this, I'm just going to make the whole thing, it's from here, yeah, from this mixed place here, I'm going to make it 8. This is the padding around each element. I'm going to make it 8. Now, I want this, no, this can move. They are all 8s and they are all 8s. So I'll change this to, no, I won't change it to just mess things. What I would do rather is just change the color. Yeah, yeah, this is fine. Now we have drones 1 and this purple drones here. Moving forward, we want this thing to stretch across all screens. So we'll go back to the very first frame, F1, and then make F1 a fill container. Go to F2 and make F2 a fill container. Good. Now we'll go to the components that house F1 and F2. That's F3. And make F3 a fill container as well because F3 is inside F4. Now that we have F4, F4 as well, since F4 is inside this current frame, which is going to be called F5, we are going to make F4 a fill container as well. Yeah, now we are good or almost good to go. We have F1, F2, F3 are all fill container by width. That means I'm telling them by width you are like water. If I pour you anywhere, you stretch. Now the fixed content here is the width of F5. If I stretch this out, you see that it's stretching. That means this F4 here, this first one is going to stretch out because it's all fill container. You can come over to F4 here and do the same thing. Let's just going to make this reset or overrides. This is not supposed to be happening. I think this is a bug on Figma, but it's not supposed to glitch that way. Now we have these components like this, and just look at how they are reacting. You can always come here and make this fill container and make this a fill container. Now they both fill that container and balance the space of the fixed content. F4 and the drones 1 and then the other drones, the both of them now are filling the container of F5. And the reason why it's not overlapping or stretching too much because F5 has a fixed width. Now F5 is not like water, itself is the cup that water can take inside, can occupy. So that's why it's behaving like this. Now moving forward, we want this to be center aligned. That's where we want it to be. Good. The name function to be center aligned. And then so that when we do this, it moves and center aligns itself. Basically, we are done with most of the features this way. But if we increase this to this length and then we come to this first one and then duplicate, it automatically produces the same component multiple times that fills the container of F5. F5 is not going to expand, it's going to be fixed. And then since we have F4 that was a fill container here, that means everything you put inside will have the same components. It already has a component itself, and then fill the container of F5, therefore making it occupy the same space. So now you're pouring different liquid inside one cup. They are both going to act like liquids and take over that space. That's how it is. If you have 1 cup of water, you divide inside 3 cups, and then you say, okay, this cup of water, right, I'm going to color one pink, red, and blue. That's exactly what we just did. We just made different ones, yeah. And then now you can change the color of each of them here. Just use yeah, of each of them here. And as we are changing the color, no, that's the wrong thing. This is what we want. Yeah, we can change the color of each of them here. And then that's exactly what I mean by adding colors to the different shades of like the different cups of water that we already have. Now by doing this, you may think that this water is already contaminated, but then it still has one property that is still constant. It is still water. It can always take up the shape. That's exactly what this is now. It is still having that fill container and to always take up the shape of any. If you put all of them inside one cup, they will all mix and fill up that cup. That's exactly what's happening here. That's like a very, very good way of explaining what fill container is. Moving forward, we want this text to be a big text like this and then straightforward, yeah. So we'll come here and then make this text inside a fill container. This is where we want to be. But then this text itself has to be left aligned. And then as it's a fill container like this, this is fine. We then have this text, which yeah, we're on the right track. Moving forward, we want this to occupy plenty text like this. And then you can see how it's overlapping like this. This is not what we want. We want it to come down itself and overlap. So you select the text and then to show you like this, right? As it's moving this way, we are going to fill container for the text. Very good. We are directly on the right path. Now, fill container is going to make the text have that fluid-like behavior. And then fill container. As you move forward, you see that it's filling the container, then it's taking shape to any element that you want. And basically, we are done with this video because this is how you get this kind of effect on this container, that it fills this way and comes out this way, and fill this way and comes out this way, fill this way and comes out this way. The same thing you have here with this. It's just different colors and different layouts. Fill this way and come down this way. You can always have the same thing here. If I duplicate this and I put this here, and then I decide that I want to put of them to be in the same auto layout, and I remove this, I'm going to have the same components here. Duplicate this is the same thing. The moment you start expanding this, you have to make all of them fill container now. Yeah. The moment you start expanding one, they all you follow that same suit and expand and retract. This looks like monday.com. But then let's leave that for another day. Monday.com is a management software. So thank you very much for sitting down and learning this video. If you learned something, if you like what you watch, tell me below in the comment section. If you don't, tell me why. If you need more explanation, always reach out to me. Thank you very much. Have a nice day. Bye.